But I found here in the United States and Europe more Marxists than I found in Vietnam. No one believes they are Marxism, in spite of the fact that they call themselves communists and social, but they believe in capitalism there. And the same story, do you know this? Vietnam was the poorest country in the world in 1990. The poorest country in the world, poorer than African countries. 80% lived in poverty. Today it's less than 5%. Why? Because 1986 they started their so-called doi moi reforms, pro-market reforms, always the same story. Inequality. I can recommend you this great book from Walter Scheidel, The Great Leveler. It's research how inequality was reduced in history. And there were 4 main reasons: war, revolution, state failure, and plague. It has all something to do with violence. Inequality was reduced with violence. Even Thomas Piketty, you know, the French economist, left-wing economist, he wrote in his book, The Capital in the 21st Century, that the biggest reduction of inequality was during World War I and World War II. These were the great levelers. You have to know, when you want to speak about reduction of inequality, what does it mean? In reality, inequality was reduced by violent shocks, as Walter Scheidel says. On the other hand, prosperity came with peaceful capitalist reforms. There's a difference. Today, everyone speaks about climate change, environmental destruction. This is the main argument from anti-capitalists today. You know the slogan, system change, not climate change. And I have here a very interesting statistic. Who of you knows the Index of Economic Freedom from Heritage Foundation, for example? Okay, most of you know this. And who of you know the Environmental Performance Index from Yale University? Not so many. But if you compare both, you see here's the numbers. They have calculated from the Heritage Foundation that in the countries that are economically free, the environmental performance index score is much higher than in the countries that are economically unfree. This is a fact. And I have an example here from, you hear it with my German accent. I come from Germany, from Berlin. And here you see, when we speak today about CO2 emissions, you see the numbers for East Germany and for West Germany. And if we adjust it to each unit of GDP, then CO2 emissions were 3 times higher in East Germany and West Germany. Why is this important? Because when people tell me the reason for climate change, the reason for environmental problems are these private capitalist companies that look for profit. But where were these private capitalist companies in East Germany? There were none of them. This was all owned by the state. By the way, you can see some more of these facts. I produced a film together with a free-to-choose network. If you Google it, you can find it on the internet, Live Behind the Berlin Wall. And you find a lot of facts there, facts like this, for example, about environmental destruction. Here, another numbers. Airborne pollutants in East and West Germany, some of them were 10 times higher in East Germany and West Germany. So it's nonsense to blame capitalism for environmental problems. The country that abolished capitalism was the country where there were the most environmental problems, not only in East Germany. It was worse than in Soviet Union, for example. But then you hear another argument. You hear resources are limited all over the world.